there, my beautiful, gorgeous beings of light, with Nick and Bean Unscripted. Yeah, baby.
I'm Beanie.
I'm Nick.
We're going to take you on a journey of conversations that include things like purple unicorns, aliens, real life stuff, and anything in between.
We can't wait to see where these conversations take us, because I can guarantee you they're going to get pretty cray-cray.
Well, with you in the room, Nicola, anything can happen.
That is true. Thank you for joining us on our journey. If you have any input that you want to add to this channel, we would love to hear from you. In the meantime, let's get the show in a row.
So we've reached out to our friends, our little amazing community group, to see what they thought we should talk about. And what happened?
Well, they mentioned about being in a relationship and being able to keep your identity whilst also growing. And they said that we have a little bit of wisdom in that. And look, we have traversed many separate paths in one path at the same time.
Together, not together, together.
Yeah. But I guess I start off just saying that as a same-sex relationship, not that I want to differentiate, but, you know, we tend to have highly emotive emotions straight up. Where, like, I'm telling Beanie I love her, I think within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're getting engaged. By the end of 1 year. We moved in with each other, I think, after 6 months.
6 months?
Was it 1 month?
Like probably 1 month.
Oh, it was fucking fast. Like, everything is propelled very fast. We're, you know, female on female, we have highly more sensitive emotions that run at a fucking higher level. So,
would you say more emotions? Because I think that some can be shut down emotionally as well, like not emotional. And I know that means there are emotions, but like, yeah, sorry, I just jumped on your sentence.
No, it's fine. I mean, yes, I think that. I think underneath it, when two females get together, there's a fuck ton of emotions. Like, there's a lot.
Explain. What do you mean by that?
A fuck ton of emotions, meaning that we connect on an emotional level. We connect on an emotional level. So therefore, our needs, desires, wants, all that kind of stuff is accelerated because we're getting fed emotionally. And if you're not emotionally available, let's say you're somewhat protected, which, I'm 100% there with you when I first, in that traverse of life, you're still emotional because those emotions are still at a female level.
And why are you not like that in a heterosexual relationship or a guy relationship?
Well, the thing is, what I tend to find when I was dating a guy, and you would obviously connect with that, is that they're not as emotionally available. So you're actually having to coach yourself. This is me because I'm fucking very emotional. You're actually having to coach yourself in not being not being received the way you want to be received all the time. Yeah. So when you're in a female relationship, because they're emotional, most of the time they're open to receiving that emotion because we're more emotional. And that's a generalized statement. Well, you would say, hypothetically, you would say that you're not as emotional.
I would say that, but I just think sorry, I am laughing at you. That's not funny. I'm laughing with you. I'm laughing at the concept because I don't know how we can pigeonhole things that much. Like when you say, and you know what I'm like, because it's annoyed you for 18 years.
Yeah.
It's I'll always look at the other side to try and find the middle road, right, and a balance. So when you say females in relationships, straight away I go, wow, I don't believe that. I think, and we're going to tap on codependency in a minute, but I think you could say they become more codependent and maybe it feels safer. Yep. But to say that they're more emotional in an open state, I don't believe that. And I can only say it based on clients, really, and conversations with friends and people. But I would say that everyone, yes, they're different. The joke with same-sex females is, what do they give you on your second week anniversary? The key to the house. Excuse me. And I think it's very different with males. Does that make sense? Yeah. And again, I can't speak for them, but from having experience in conversations and session, whatever, I can more so. And it's almost like both of them in a different way are seeking to find a connection and a love. Both of them will seek them in different ways, because I feel like a lot of female relationships might be very close to just really good friends or a codependent relationship and not as sexual. And there can be the male on male side where it's incredibly sexual and they just don't find that depth is what people are searching for. So if you're going to put them into boxes, then that's the two demographics. And then the heterosexual comes together with all of those together, but they're gross generalizations at the best of times.
For sure. But I guess what I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I get that, is that I would say that women have more needs, complex needs, because men are simpler, like 100%. This is why females and males work really well together, because females, complex, males, simple, together, yin and fucking yang, in a perfect harmonistic way, they work really beautifully together because they balance each other out. Yes. Women need complexity. You know, there's a heightened energy, there's a heightened need, and so it's being fed at that level. Yeah. And so from a hetero to hetero relationship, it's a lot more. It's less heightened, only because the male generally has the simplicity of not being able to meet the complexity, which requires you as a female to simplify, obviously not simplify, but honor your complexity, but also sit in the simpleness as well at the same time, and then also bring the yang up with the complexity for him to understand the emotions, for him to understand your needs. Am I fishing? Like, am I going? Am I making sense? Because I feel like I'm making sense.
But all I can hear is like men going, "You're fucked," like saying we're so simple.
It is true. It's actually there is science. If you look at a brain, you've taught me this. If you look
I did tell you this, but and I'm saying, if we bring it back to the primitive style of things, men are to point, shoot, and a target, and that's what they do, right? That's why their physiology lasts way longer than ours. And that's for our menopause podcast that will be coming soon. Trust me. Let me have a rant on that one. But like, they're designed to point and shoot and fend for the family, and the fighter, the physical, the holder, right? Of the feminine, and the feminine is the carer, the looking after, all this stuff. So I understand why we're more complex. We've got to do 1,000 things at once. Literally, we've got to cook, we've got to
feed, baby, whatever,
all of that stuff to keep. All of that. Like, and this is a gross generalization as well. So yes, we are primitively like set up that way, but we've changed over time, and we are starting to morph more into, you can see it, men are becoming more feminine, women have definitely become very distorted in their masculine. Again, gross generalization
through what we've been told and the way we've grown up, and the monarchy of life that has been our foundation, right? Like, everything is changing. We are in the space of feminine awakening. This is what's happening. This is why men amazingly and women amazingly are starting to honor, reflect emotions, and come into a space where, this can be accepted rather than shunned down.
Well, we have to evolve, right?
We have to evolve.
And then, so speaking of that and bringing it back to us.
Glad, because I was about to do that too.
Being in not even just a same-sex relationship, but a relationship. Like, if we just leave it at a relationship, and if things pop in,
I just mentioned that because I wanted to bring to the lovely, amazing people that listen to us what we have been at the initiation of our relationship, that it was very,
codependent.
It was codependent in a lot of ways, and ultimately I'm going to generally fucking stereotype here. I'm going to say that in a lot of ways it's the same sex couple way in a lot of ways.
For sure. I understand.
Because
that was a long way around for us to agree,
well,
which is what we do.
I think people need to have a picture.
That's what we do.
Anyway.
This is our couch philosophies that happen with or without the camera.
Yeah.
Would you like to let our son into our fur baby? He wants to come inside. I think this is the whole part of today's talk as well, is how we communicate, how we evolve or don't in relationships, how we accept things in relationships and how we don't accept things in relationships, and where those healthy boundaries lie. And that moving target, it's like, if someone says to you, oh, you stepped over the line, it's like, well, what's your line compared to my line? Does that line move as we progress in relationship and mature in our own spirituality, in our own emotional states, in our own beings and growth, and then how the other person grows with that or doesn't, and how we did navigate and continue to navigate that on a daily basis, hourly basis.
Yeah. I'm going to say, and, look, you may or may not agree with this, but I believe that any relationship, business, life lesson, fucking whatever it is being presented to you, it is an opportunity for a spiritual awakening. I believe our relationship has been a driving force, besides the other shit that we've done, for our own spiritual awakening, and the ability to honor each other has only come from our own desire to grow as individuals.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say that whilst we always loved each other, we broke up 6 times. I used to punch walls, there's really no rules to a relationship, in terms of how it facilitates a pathway.
I would say there are.
Okay.
Because if you were to ask me what makes a strong relationship, and of course there's a handful of different things that I would say, but the biggest thing would be 2 things: honesty and respect. And if you just followed everything that you do in life with honesty and respect for yourself, for other people, then everything else is just like interjections, whatever, around it. Because I would say constantly through our relationship, and like you said, you were punching walls at the start, and we're very sort of like had that really, that distorted yang energy. You had a really, really high energy, and I was really, really, really introverted energy, and it was like I didn't like loud noises. You wanted to turn it up. Like I got cold really quickly. You wanted everything open and standing on the mountaintop. Like there was so many polar opposites, like polar opposites.
Oh, yeah, I have big lips. You have small lips. I like to talk. You don't like to talk that much.
Get me started. But it's this. What was I talking about?
Honesty and respect.
Yeah, honesty and respect. So in all of those situations, like there were times, and I'm not encouraging people to not be honest with themselves, but I think probably if we were back at the start more, if we were who we are now, and I know this is what we say about life all the time, if I was who I am now, I wouldn't have done those other things or whatever because I had the wisdom to not. I don't think we would have been together because we wouldn't have stood for our behaviors, right? Where we are now, we couldn't go back to that and go, it's okay that you punched a wall, or it's okay that we're shouting at each other, because I was that introvert that would go along until I just fucking exploded into this rage of something.
Well, we're also connecting at a consciousness level of whatever we're connecting with, like, so say, for example, you're an awakening being and I'm punching walls. Well, you're not going to tolerate that. But if we're meeting each other as to where we're met in terms of, consciousness level, I think, that's where we meet, that's where we either accept or we don't because we're in different states.
Yeah, so how much is too much?
Yeah, totally. And one word that comes, one thing that's been saying in my mind, that's been coming in my mind a lot this morning is it's okay to want what you want. And I think it is okay to want what you want whilst being in a relationship. And I think that's the hardest part in a relationship, particularly from what I have experienced with each other, is that in the journey of wanting the other person to be happy, to wanting to feel accepted, to wanting to feel loved, you know, you kind of go along a little bit for a lot of it, trying to meet those needs, trying to meet those desires in whatever way they come up. And even 18 years in, you know, I still allow myself to go into that space of really knowing what I want and getting what I want. And going back to honesty and respect, you know, I think what we've done really well, which is what you said, is be really honest with each other about every part of our journey. I mean, there's sometimes people would say that, you know, too much information, but to be honest, I don't think you can share too much information. And this is coming from a person who likes to communicate fucking everything. But
3 times over.
Yeah, you know, but I really don't, because
I love that about you.
I think, you know, there was a space when, you know, we were living apart, you know, for 12 months. And, you know, I
was like, what? When? Oh, yeah.
You know, when I was in Queensland, you remember? Mm-hmm. And I said to you, I don't know if I love you anymore, you know, and in that space of, you know, one of the things that we wrote down before was the ability to hold each other in the transition of something. You know, we as a couple have always been in alignment as to what we want, which has been individual to our own needs, which is to grow, would you say? Yeah. To heal, and to have a future that is financially free. Yeah, those are probably the things that, you know, and they are our cornerstone. So we have very strong values in that. And I think that is what has kept us on path with each other, because we have always wanted, well, those 2 things, which is to grow and to, I think, what was the other one? Anyway, whatever the other one was, you know, we have always showed up, you know, we've always shown up for each other in terms of, if there's something that you needed to say to me and I needed to, you know, or it was important for me, you know, like Beanie speaks her truth, and then I obviously most of the time in the past react and then process that in my own time and reflect for me to grow, because it's a common value that we have. Yeah. And
growth is a common value for sure. And looking at ourselves. And I think in the beginning that was a lot harder. And there was a lot of pushback on that. But I there's a really fine line too, because for me, one of the things that I probably had an issue with more for myself and my own growth was that line between I want to grow, so what line is too much? And if, like, I could always find the growth in it for myself, like every situation we were in, I could always find the growth for myself in it. So then I would go back and go, okay, is this okay? And it was only when it got to those peak times for us, and we both have made those decisions at some point through our relationship, where one of us has gone, that's not okay for me anymore. Right, that's not okay for me, that's it, we're breaking up. And we would generally break up, right? It was a really genuine eyeballing. I think I've still got a photo on my phone of our biggest one that you know, is still a little bit of a trigger for you. Because you keep telling me, no, just kidding, you don't anymore. But like, that was probably the most real serious one, wouldn't you say? Like, as in how much it hurt. And the time between. But there's definitely there's always that definite, and we feel it energetically more than anything, I would say. It's not just a cognitive, we're not going to do this anymore. It's a spiritual tie that we've had before meeting. And so when that comes to that point, it is a real measurer of our life. And that's, so doing that like internal like check-in, and it's like, what am I doing? What do I need to do? Where am I? What's happening? What's going on with this relationship? Like, all of those different things, like where am I? Where do I want to be? Am I being my best version? Why aren't I being my best version? Is it to do with the relationship, or is it to do with something that I can grow in? And for me, it kept going as something that I could grow in. And so I would sometimes just go, it's okay. It's okay. And we would continue because I'm like, well, I'm growing and that boundary hasn't been pushed too far for me, right? Until it did get pushed too far. And then it's like, this can't happen anymore. But every single time that has happened from either party, we go off and we do our own personal realignments, and then we come back and we realign together, and we reconfigure what was the blueprint of our coming together. And it does really come back to a deep spiritual knowing. And I want to try and make sure that I'm not deceiving people into staying in something that isn't okay. You know what I mean? I don't want people to be in a relationship and justify and go, oh yeah, well, I'm still growing and learning about myself, therefore it's okay. Like if it's abusive, it's abusive and that's not okay. And we all should be able to either speak up or go somewhere away from that. Like I don't think we should get stuck in just our own growth and stay in something that's toxic or something that isn't okay. But for us, we only came back together because there was healthy growth in it, and there was healthy love and respect in it. Like I think every time we leveled up. Like we met each other. If one person progressed to here and the other person was here, you could feel that distortion almost. And once it got to a distortion, and it's like energy, you know, you pull it further away, the thicker it feels. It was like that. It'd get to there and it's like, okay.
And most of the time when it got to that tension, there would be a semi-explosion or a conversation or a discussion that would bring us back into reevaluating where we were as individuals. And, you know, I think that going back to that codependency, you know, that kind of revolutionized itself from that last really big breakup that we had, and reaffirming. But I think, you know, I also want to say truth in being able to communicate what your desires are is really important in a relationship. You know, it is so important. You know, a lot of the times we self-sacrifice because, like I said before, we want to make them happy, we want to feel loved, and we don't want to upset them. But what I've worked out with Beanie is, and our relationship for me is that, you know, I'm a bit of a pusher. You know, I'm always wanting to, you know, get people to go the other line. You know, let's just go a little bit further into ourselves.
And now do it now.
And they may not always be ready, you know. And I learned that the only way to lead, and there's a fucking million quotes about this, is be the change you want to be in a world. And it is up to you. If you want a relationship that is honest, you have to be the honest one. If no one's going to be honest in a relationship, you have to be honest. If you want a relationship that's communicative, you have to be the one communicating. If you want a relationship to be loving, then you have to be the person that's loving. You have to just show them the way. And after a while, like, because I'm a massive romantic, right? I fucking love it. How much, you know,
so much.
I love romance. Do I always want romance in my life? Yes.
Does she get that?
Do I get that?
Probably not.
Not as much as what I want.
Yeah.
However, I've learned to appreciate that what Beanie does offer me is an absolute amazing amount of console in my ability to communicate, you know, to be emotional and to be, you know, meet me there wherever that is. And there's that saying that, you know, you can have it all, and you can have it all. But for me, what I've decided is that the little things, I like that we're growing together, and I know Beanie is seeing me more and more in that romantic space. You know, this week we went for a picnic, and it was her suggestion, and that was like amazing and very excited, and it lighted me up. And I
bought me another month.
You know, like, and to understand that, you know, a relationship is a growth portal. You know, yes, we want it all, but sometimes it takes time. And this goes back to holding space and reevaluating our priorities. Now, communication is fucking right up there over romance, or being able to be met at whatever I'm feeling at that point and feeling supported and heard is fucking right up there over romance. It's a growing portal. So to put a lot of pressure on your relationship as to, you know, knowing what you want. Yes, you can have it all, absolutely, but it's a growth portal. And so you go, okay, well, what are my priorities right now? What are my go-to priorities that really, like, I want to, you know, this is a top priority, go for adventures all the fucking time. Like, and I want to go with my partner. Now, the thing is, I can also connect with that because I'm a very big adventurous. You know, I love adventure, you know. Beanie, not so much so, you know. So, you know, I'll drag her out there and, you know, she'll fucking fly that flag. But I had to let go of having Beanie as my go-to person for adventure.
And can I say something with that? Sorry to interrupt you, because I know you're on a roll, so please excuse me. Because there's a slight an add-on to that, and that's, she can be grateful that I'm coming to the adventure with her now, where there was a time where she wanted me to have the enthusiasm that she had to do the adventure. And I'm like, but we're totally different. Like, I'm here, I'm doing it with you, not always complaining. Sometimes I might have complained a bit, like when she talks me in for a 2-hour walk and it ends up being 4 hours.
It's good for you.
I know, I do. I know, and I like exercise. I love bushwalking. I love all of that stuff. But sometimes I get a little bit, oh God, this has gone on too long. But it was the expectation of me to be the same as her in that space. You know, like, you love something and you really want to share it with someone, and you want them to be that excited. You want them to have the same excitement, the same energy towards it, and the same passion towards it. But you can't expect that from another person. Like, you stay in your lane and you go, well, I love this. Thank you for joining me with this. I have no expectation for you to be as excited about this as I am. When we are both that excited about things, amazing. But it's still amazing when we're sharing something together and really witnessing the effort. Like she said, not that thinking of a picnic was an effort for me, but to be honest, it's not something that pops into my mind, like, to be romantic. So for her, knowing what I'm like, the picnic was like, wow, you thought of me and I didn't have to say anything. That's amazing. Now, if I was in a session with someone and they said that their partner did that, I was like, how low is the bar that got you excited? And I get that now that's me as the person that I'm referring to. But like, when we compromise, like, people go, this is what I want and I'm not willing to compromise. And it's like, great. That's what we teach people as well. Like, go after what you want, but we have to compromise. Like, there's such a joy in compromising. Like, if I do something that's from a compromise, that wouldn't be something that I would choose to do or necessarily even want to do, but I know that it brings my partner so much joy and love, and she feels appreciated and thought of, and it's an intimacy, and it's so beautiful. So really, am I compromising myself to do that? I feel like, even the way I've described it, I end up winning as well, because I want you to feel amazing. I feel like the good little puppy going, did you like that? Did I do well? You know, that little me comes out a little bit like going, I did good. But it's a beautiful connection that we potentially may not have had instead of that, if we don't compromise. And I know that you've compromised, especially the last couple of years. For me, you've compromised a lot more in wanting my time. And that's like, we're going back to that codependency thing, you know, like, you wanting me to be available for you to do stuff. And if I'm just doing, you know, crypto, which seemingly hours and hours and hours of study, because it is hours and hours and hours of study and a lot of time, and feeling that pressure of honoring a relationship, but also wanting to be respected for having that time to be able to do what I want, you know, and in that space, because it's something that I really want to do. And you adjusting to that, like you've really adjusted to that. And I also have adjusted to go, okay, enough's enough. I want to nurture the relationship now, don't you think?
Yeah.
And that's where I think compromise is a huge, and again, like you've got to check into the healthy boundaries in that as well. But if we don't compromise a little bit because we want to be able to give and take in a relationship, or I should say give and receive rather than take, but give and receive in a relationship, like it takes things like that as well.
And with that too, you know, there's that letting go, you know, because there was this conversation I had with years ago, and they're like, oh, but they're, you know, they're this way and they do that way and they don't see this. And it's like, when you see a person, one of the biggest things that I learned in this relationship is that I learned that once I saw Beanie, I stopped fighting with her, because there was no point fighting my cause for what I thought was better for her. Do you know what I mean? There's no point fighting a cause that you believe is right for that person when you're not that person. So I let the fuck go. I let go years ago. I think it was like 3 years ago when I had this argument with Beanie and I was putting my point across and she fucking got angry again. And I thought to myself, I'm not doing this again. I am not doing this again. I am not trying to coach, amend, put her in a better perspective, change, blah, blah, blah. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. There's been moments where, again, we come to the crescendo. Was it? Crescendo. Come to the crescendo. And you know, it's, you know, it pops open and go, okay, hold on, I've got a truth that I need to share, because now I feel like this is now affecting me. And that's when that crescendo happens, right? Because it's starting to affect me. It's like, you know, someone's on this tangent and they're rolling this fucking dice and they're rolling the same dice, and now it's really impacting your environment, and you're like, hold on, this is the moment where this your truth is spoken. But other than that, there's a big part of letting go of what the person is that you want them to be. You just need to say what is important to you. What is important to you is important for me.
And is that what you're saying your truth is?
Yeah, the truth is
your truth.
My truth is, let's say she, you know, Beanie's on a roll and my truth is, when you keep acting this way, I feel blah, 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 which therefore affects blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, that only happens after a certain period of time. If you're just letting go and they're doing what they're doing and they're learning their lesson, remember, holding space and allowing them to unravel in their own fucking dialogue of life is absolutely fucking critical. It is absolutely fucking critical. You cannot dictate where they are going and how they're going to be. And I know, because I fucking tried. And there is no point.
Many times with many people.
There is no point trying to push your agenda as about what you think they need to be doing. You either connect with them on a level that is value orientated, i.e. you want the same thing, you want to fucking be the, you know, whatever, you have a constitution that enables you to reconnect to it at many parts of your day, life, year, month, whatever. But otherwise, you're just letting go and loving the fuck out of them because these other needs that you desire from them, i.e., for me, love, respect, you know, emotional support, you know, obviously not too draining, obviously, but, you know, like, don't want to drag you down, darling, but, you know.
It's not hard for me to be caring and loving. In fact, I have a lot more space for it now that you're not telling me your agenda.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come over here. So you're like on the edge.
Sorry. You know, so there's, that's letting go is a big part, because I feel like a lot of relationships, they go into it, they're going, I really like that person, but if they could be this, and this, that'd be fucking perfect. That'd be the best person in the fucking world.
I need you to be this so I can be whatever.
100%. I need you to be this so I can be whatever. No, just be whatever the fuck you are.
And I would add to that, like you become more available. Like I believe I'm way more available to you now that you're not like doing, like trying to mold me into what you could see. Yeah. When you're not trying to make me something, you're allowing me the space to actually be me. Right. And so when you're trying to mold someone to be all of these things, and I was doing the same to you, like, you know, can you be less? You're saying, can I be more? And I wanted you to be less. Right. So we came into the opposite and then try to mold that other person into what we wanted to be more, rather than just accepting that. And now I go, fuck it, I'm just going to dance to the loud music if Nicola wants it, rather than go, it's too loud. But it always came, back then it came with that like build up of angst from both of us to going, you're not accepting me for who I am, and you're not accepting me for who I am. And it was that fight. It's like, well, neither of us are doing that. But we also, like, I think back, we were having a chat earlier in the car about different times, and like when I did finally move up from Melbourne to Brisbane after we'd had that 12 months apart, and you were in corporate, and I'd decided that I'd sold my business in Melbourne as a fitness business and kinesiology. I obviously couldn't sell, but like the PT side of the business, sold that, came up for a month, and you're like, okay, I need you to earn more money. And we have these conversations like, I need you to, I thought I'd take some time off. And it's like, Nicola's like, there's things that I want to do, and you need to do something here. And it didn't happen straight away, because making more money was me deciding to get into more debt and open up a whole wellness center. But just in that space, like that 4 weeks of building, and when I say building, we had a warehouse and building walls and stuff, which I had a little bit of help with from Nicola at a time, but she was still in corporate, and I had a friend build one wall in there, and the rest I was in there like every day for 28 days or a month, like every single day. Like my hands and my arms were killing me from trying to like hammer, drill, build, do whatever. I remember on the kitchen floor one morning in our house, just like dropped to my knees, and I cried to Nicola. I said, I don't know if I can go in again today. And then 5 minutes later, I'm okay. And then Nicola was also stressed in her corporate gig, and she came to me while I was doing shitty plastering, and like by shitty meaning I was doing a shit job. I know people say it is a shit job, but I was doing a really bad job of it. And I'm up a ladder, and she's like, I don't know if I can do it anymore. And I just looked at her, and I'm not making really money there, and I'm like, fuck, I've got to get this stuff done. And so pressure, sure, but we love pressure sometimes, not so much as we age.
We had a mortgage.
Oh yeah, mortgage. It was all the pressures that people talk about other than kids.
Yeah.
And more, because it's an own business. So if you're employed, whatever. So Nicola was our only real employment. And I just looked at her and I said, baby, if you are that unhappy and you need to quit, just quit. We'll be fine. I know that we'll be fine. We just have to trust. Now, most people wouldn't be able to say that. And I'm not flying my own flag here when I say that. I look back and I go, fucking hell, because I know there was a part of me internally that was like, whew, shit, okay. But there was a bigger part of me that couldn't tell her that she couldn't do that. Like, who am I to tell her when I'm doing what I've wanted to do and I've put myself in this position? Who am I to tell her that she can't do that? Who am I to stop her from living her dream? Like, I've got this really strong thing that A, will always be okay, but B, like, how can I stop someone from wanting to do what they want to do? The same as when she rang me from Brisbane when I was in Melbourne and said, I'm not sure if I love you anymore. I was like, okay, we'll work it out and let me know what you think. And it's not me sitting around waiting for her to hopefully love me because I couldn't possibly be with anyone else. It was more like a respectful, you go through your stuff because I go through my stuff, and hopefully she'll be there to hold me if I went through that, you know, like, and that idea of like, same as when then the business was up and running and I was already so overwhelmed in that business and going, fuck, what have I done? That I would drive to Bunnings to get something, and part of my mind would go to, oh, I hope, what if I just hit that telegraph pole and just broke my leg enough to not have to go to work again, you know, for a bit. And that's when Nick would step in as well, right? Like, and we had the beauty of that stepping in, seeing the other person needed it, or needed that help, and being able to step in. I think when we were doing that back then, there was still a bit of a distortion from me in that. Like, it was like, well, hang on, if you're in here, where am I? And if I'm in there, where are you, kind of thing. So there was almost like a space that we hadn't worked out in our own relationship yet to be able to do that as respectfully as we would like to do.
And yeah.
And so there was a holding space, in that.
I think, ultimately a relationship is about giving each other permission continuously. I remember a stage where we went through, we were like, if we're not empowering each other, if we're not empowering each other to do whatever it is that is in their best interest, that they perceive to be in their best interest, then your job is null and void. Your job is null and void. Your job, for me personally, is to give the other person permission. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? What do you want? Like, if you want to quit your job, quit your fucking job. If you want to we are not there to dictate, or even if you've got kids, like, I'm going to say that I know lots of friends that have kids that won't allow their partner to change their job because they're scared of not having any money.
Which is no judgment on other people's choices, but it is that idea of, like, instead of someone goes, I can't do this anymore, and you can see them struggling and you don't know how, like, you can change it, but they go, I don't want to do this anymore. And then the fear response is, well, we can't, like, we have to continue, or we can't change it, to, okay, well, I'm really scared. Right? Like, because the response of that, isn't it? Like, if you come to me and you say something, this is what we need to do, and if I'm grounded and mature enough, really, in my own emotional state, to go, whoa, what was that? And 1,000 things can come into your mind as to why that's just blown you off your feet. And then if you like most people, and like what we have done in the past, which I'm pretty sure we're past now. I'm going to say we're past now, because it hasn't happened for a while, and I think we've got the skills to talk through it. Most people will just react out of fear and going, you can't, or like, blah, and it comes out in statements to the most top of the surface, like whatever's recognized there as the recent irritants and all of the other bits. But really, if we allow ourselves to go deeper and straight away going, whoa, that's blown me, just give me a minute. Like, give me a minute, give me 10 minutes. It's not a no, it's not an anything. I just need some time, because that actually, when I check in with myself, that really rocked me. And I'm not sure why, or I'm not sure whatever. So give me time, right? Would be the best thing to do. And then to communicate how you feel, but then just go into it and know that this relationship, this shadow work, this fucking situation is the opportunity to grow. It is an opportunity to grow until you decide that you don't want to grow with this person anymore for whatever reason, or if they don't want to, you don't want to go with that person, whatever it is. But it's an opportunity to grow. It's the ability to give yourself and your partner permission continuously, ensuring that relationships take compromise, they take honesty. I can't say honesty enough. I know so many people that refrain from saying what they desire in a relationship. Like, if you're not able to say what you desire in a relationship, then and decide that this isn't spiritual work, that it's just, it is what it is, then it's only going to get tougher. The relationship will only get tougher. The importance of being able to speak your honest truth is your ability to transmute your own self in the situation for you to expand. That is the expansion. This is why it's happening. This is why speaking our truth is so fucking important in life. Speaking our truth to our friends, speaking our truth to our family, speaking our truth. Speaking your truth is the absolutely precedence of being able to, one, if you want to be seen, big fucking tick there. If you want to be heard, fucking big fucking tick there. If you want to be accepted, big fucking tick there. Because if people aren't accepting you when you speak your truth, there's an indicator about what that person is to you, right? There is an indicator. Can they accept you?
Or is it a constant resistance of no, no, no? Well, if you're getting a constant resistance of no, well, I'm telling you, there's a fucking big fucking red fucking flag flying so fucking high in that fucking sky. You're going, this red flag is not for me. You get the fuck out. You go, okay.
Well, is there a space for me in that? That's what you're saying. Like, it's not, I mean, it's, you know, not fucking me for me. That's like making the point. But is there a space, if it is constantly a no, I'm not willing, no, I'm not willing, no, I'm not willing, then is there a space for me? I mean, that's a
beautiful way to put it.
That's the easiest way to put it, right? Like, there is no space if they're not willing to talk about it. But you don't have relationship unless you are considering each other and talking about stuff. So, and this is my take on marriage, and why, even though one day maybe it's 18 years, we may have like a celebration of our relationship, but it'll be a celebration of our relationship, not a piece of paper from a government body that tells me I'm going to commit to Nicola until I die, because I believe that I will do that. But why would I commit to something saying, what if she becomes an asshole? What if she doesn't want to be with me anymore? What if, so it's not even my decision? Like, I don't think that we can, in truth of love, stay in a relationship our whole lives if it isn't okay for us. And I believe that this relationship, right where I am right now, I can't imagine us not being together for the rest of our lives. Like, I honestly can't. And that's not a codependency or anything. I think if she chose to go somewhere else, or if I did, or something happened, I believe it would be in love. Like, I really believe it would be a really respectful, in love situation. And I think if it was done in a space where both of us are still alive, obviously I'm saying if one of us passed away and that's why the relationship ended, but if we,
it's difficult.
That's difficult. I would still love you. But anyway, sorry, my mind just went to anyway. But if we were to go our separate ways through choice of both of us or one of us, like, I believe that we would stay in contact for the rest of our lives in some way, shape, or form. Like, I can't imagine us not being emotional. But I just can't. I think the connection is so there. I mean, as we talked last time, like, I'm still friends with my ex as well, because she's an amazing human, and that's why we came together, because she's an amazing soul and she's an amazing human. And I think we have these spiritual journeys and these spiritual groups, per se, that we connect with to do the work and to do whatever it is we're meant to do here on earth until we don't.
It is, yeah, 100%. These, like I said at the start, this relationship, or things that are happening in your life, they are here to grow. It's happening for us. And if you've chosen someone that wants to grow and wants to be the best version for themselves and ultimately you, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that's a win-win chicken, win-win chicken dinner, even though we don't eat chicken, but if
winner chicken dinner,
yeah,
it's got to rhyme.
Okay, well, anyway, do you know what I mean? There's that opportunity, there's that growth, because I really believe that we're here to grow as individuals. If you're not growing as an individual, like, what the fuck? Why are we even alive? Why are we breathing? Why do we earn money? Why do we exist? Are we just here to collect material fucking items? Like, I'm sorry. Yes, that is absolutely available to you. However,
take it with you.
You can't take it with you. The only thing, and that is what we will be talking about when we talk about death at one of our podcasts, is the connections that we have with people, is the connections that you have with your partners, the connections that you have with your families, your connections with you have with your friends, and the relationship that you have with your partner is a direct reflection as to where you are in your life. And if you're wanting to grow and be the best version, then ultimately, like I said before, you have to show up in that space. If you want more love, you have to be the more love. You have to be the more considerate. You have to show them the way, until you get to a point where go, hold on, I've been showing you way. Have you not noticed? This is what I've been doing. I would love for that to be somewhat reflected back to me in some way over capacity, because I really want this relationship to work.
You need to see it, right? You need to see that the other person is trying.
Absolutely.
Or and also that you're trying, right? Like there has to be
100%.
that element. And if people aren't willing to try anymore, that's okay.
Absolutely.
It just isn't the space to be in if we're not feeling supported in some way. And yeah, I think coming back to that honesty and respect as those two things. And am I respecting myself? Am I respecting the other person? Because some people get stuck in that, I'm respecting myself, therefore you need to be this and this. And it's like, well, are you respecting them in that, or
are you telling them that they need to be something or need to be something else or whatever? Like there's a cornerstone to their personality that you loved when you met them. You either accept them for that, for what they are right now, and you continue to grow as an individual and see if they grow with you in the desires of what it is that you want to be met at or with, and your desires of life and your relationship, whether it's sex or, whether it's, intimacy, like you go into intimacy, and we have an absolutely amazing podcast that we're happening next week, which we'll talk about next week. But, intimacy is another level.
Clearly we'll be talking about intimacy in some way, shape or form.
Is another level
and
of,
healthy boundaries.
of knowing, are you able to meet, what does intimacy look like for you?
What is it for you, and what does it look like for me?
Absolutely. And having communications based on that, like when I first, I was a very sexual person. Sex was a definitive value for me to feel as though I was loved and appreciated. That's the truth of it all. I've grown as a person, as an individual, spiritually, emotionally, fucking physically. And now sex isn't such a fucking go-to, I need to feel it so I can feel loved. I already feel I'm fucking amazingly loved and valued by my partner. Intimacy, yes, is still so important to me. And my values have changed, but it's important to understand what that intimacy looks like for each person, and going, okay, well, back in the heyday, I might have wanted sex 4 or 5 times a week, Beanie potentially wasn't like that way inclined. How do we get those desires met? Do you go invest in an intimacy, coach, or go to Tantra and explore those avenues so that each person is being seen, each person is being heard, each person is being respected, and each person is being honest? And if those values are not being met, then how are you ever going to feel those? How are you ever going to feel those if you aren't being met at those cornerstones?
And I can guarantee you too, like there's a lot of people out there, including it would have been myself, 100% on this list. If someone turns around, or your partner turned around to you and says, well, what do you like? What would you like to feel? What would you like to, what's intimacy for you? What is, because so many people just do what they do because they think it's the right thing to do. But when we actually open up that conversation as to what you would like to have in those spaces, or what is love to you, what is intimacy for you, what is romance to you, what does that look like, because it's going to be different from every person. And just opening up that communication in a relationship and going, well, that's not what I see romance is. It doesn't mean that that's not something that can be brought into the relationship for that person, and vice versa, Like, how do we, again, come back to that respect? In all honesty, I don't like it when you do that move, or I don't like it when we just do this, or whatever it is. And instead of like going into failure and going, oh, well, that's my only move or whatever, it's like, well, what do you like, and how can I grow? And again, like we talked about, and I feel like we're starting to repeat ourselves, so it might be time to finish, but how can we grow in that space? And then how does, as an individual, and then how do we come together in that space respectfully and in growth and love? Love. Like, it's just, love isn't sex. Love isn't a present that's consideration, but love, it's a feeling that you will get from behaviors and energy when people do make that effort and do,
when you feel heard and loved,
show up in sometimes the most smallest ways of holding space for each other.
Yeah,
really. And that's learning.
That's learning.
We've got 18 years under our belt with lots of lots of rocky journeys.
Rocky road. And it is a rocky road. Like the relationships, they're rocky. They're rocky. You accept the rockiness and you always realign, reconnect. Is this right? Am I doing this? What do I need to do? Accountability is another thing that, that I was thinking about before, accountability of self, where am I showing up? Where am I showing up? And the other thing I wanted to mention too is that whilst we're being really honest with each other, there's been moments where my voice is shaken. My voice is shaken speaking this truth. It's scary. It's scary. It's vulnerable. The most closest person to you right now, if you say what you feel, when I called up Beanie and said, I don't know if I love you anymore, let me tell you, I wasn't screaming from the high pitch of the hilltops. I was scared shitless. I was scared that she was going to go, well, that's the case. Glad you told me now. I'm going to stay in Melbourne and see you later. She was able to meet me. She was able to meet me in my vulnerable space. And this is the beauty of growing with someone, is that there's no definitive end result. There's no definitive end result. It's an ongoing respect, love, and appreciation of where you both want to go as individuals, not as a couple, as individuals, and being able to meet each other there at each point. Holding space. I hope you got, we spoke about a lot, but I think I hope you understand and appreciate what we're trying to say here, and that there might be some golden nuggets along the way.
Because we never remember what we're talking about anyway, which is why we call it unscripted, so we can't be held accountable for when we ramble, repeat things, and forget what we said.
Yeah.
Welcome to Nick and Bean 2.0, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you've really enjoyed this podcast, though, YouTube, whatever, please like and subscribe. If there's something that you would really love us to cover, we do try every week to get in a expert on a topic. And next week, we will be looking at intimacy and boundaries and more, but we can't give it away just yet. But please leave a comment in below, like in the comments below, if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover. And also, if there's something you want to add to your intimacy, to relationships, to everything we've talked about, please share it below. Let's get the conversation starting and continuing, because we love creating community, and we'd love for you to be a part of our community and be able to share things with you that you'd actually like to listen to. What do you think about that?
I think that sounds great.
Is it all right?
Sounds deliciously done.
Kids. Thank you for listening. That's us.
Bye.